Welcome to the Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. If you're looking to get more out of your Shenandoah Valley experience, then this is the podcast for you. You'll meet interesting people, musicians, and comedians that perform here and find out more about what you can do and see. Whether you live here or plan to visit, listen to explore what makes our unique slice of heaven. Now here's your host, Don Davis Womack.
Hello, Laughers. I'm thrilled to introduce you to Lee Hartman, winemaker and manager from Bluestone Vineyard, located in the heart of the Shenandoah Valley. This family-owned and operated vineyard and winery is on 27 acres and features 24 different wines. They also feature live music, including their wildly popular Toast the Weekend concert series, a wedding and event venue with their tasting room that's located at the very top of the hill in the lower level of the meeting house, has gorgeous views of the Allegheny Mountains. In this episode, we'll be diving into their story, offerings, wines, winemaking, and industry insights. Welcome to the show, Lee. It's great to have you on today.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, this is so exciting. I enjoy my visits every time I get a chance to go out to Bluestone Vineyard, and I was super excited to prep for this interview today, and I had a lot of fun looking up more information about you all that I did not know. So I'm really getting excited about sharing this with the Laughers. That said, my very first question is, what's the inspiration behind the name of the vineyard?
So when we were trying to think of what we wanted to call the place, the one thing that kept coming up was when we were digging holes in the ground, there was just a ton of limestone in our hill. So you can't dig a hole or hammer a post in the ground without running into limestone. And considering wine is only the whatever the soil is that the vine is put in, we decided to call it Bluestone, which is a nickname for limestone, and it connects us to the surrounding community. There's all the buildings at JMU that are made out of bluestone. It's the name of the JMU yearbook. There's streets named after Bluestone. There's Bluestone Pediatrics. There's Bluestone, everything that you can imagine in Rockingham County. So we decided to go with that.
I love the name. I think it's absolutely delightful. Do you have Bluestone features anywhere, like the stone itself on the property at all, or no?
Yeah. So if you come to the winery where the tasting room used to be, we are now on our third iteration of a tasting room. We started at the bottom of the hill where I make wine, and then we wanted to build a new tasting room, but we hadn't built a meeting house yet. So that meant that the tasting room moved to my parents' basement for a while. But if you go to the winery where the original tasting room was, that walk up to that front entrance is a bunch of bluestone blocks building a wall there.
Oh, that's really great. I love that. Thanks for sharing that. You also went to Eastern Mennonite University, which is a fun fact, I think. And
it is a fun fact.
It is a fun fact. And here's the second fun fact. You graduated with a degree in history. So I'm wondering, how did you become a winemaker?
Well, I did a year at Christopher Newport, which is out in eastern part of the state. And I decided that college was not for me, not at the moment. So I ended up taking a year off and I moved to Europe. I lived in Germany for a year, and I did part of a cross-cultural exchange called Intermenno. I was raised in the Mennonite church. My family is Mennonite going back generations and generations. And so I went back to where Mennonites, really got started. The program was in the Netherlands, Germany, and Switzerland. Wow. So I lived in Germany for a year, and anytime I'd have friends come over and visit, I would show them around. We would go to the cities, we'd go to Rome or Paris or Amsterdam or wherever, 19 and 20-year-olds want to go and see. And I played the role of tour guide all the time, and I really loved it. And I loved showing people history, and I loved showing people around town and that sort of thing. So when I ended up coming back home, I went to EMU, and I ended up studying history. I just loved sitting in class. History is nothing but this big long story, and you don't have to remember specific dates and all that sort of thing, but you just need to remember the main characters and the plot and all of that. And you could pretty much just sit in the back of class and eat snacks and listen to this story. So I ended up getting a degree in that, and then when I graduated, I wanted to move back to Europe. I wanted to be a tour guide. I thought I was actually going to use my degree. And I thought that was a really neat concept. So I wanted to work in a museum or be a tour guide or something like that. And as I waited for different agencies and companies or museums to get back to me, my parents, who were very supportive of me moving back to Europe, they thought it was a good fit for me. They said, "Why don't you help us start this vineyard that we're going to get started with?" And so that was the same year that they were getting started that I graduated and started putting vines in the dirt. And after doing that for several years and not getting any calls from Europe, I fell in love with this idea of, and this is not unique to Lee Hartman. This is almost just a cliche for winemakers. You've come to the realization that this glass of Chardonnay is just a bunch of dirt and water and sunlight, and it's the wildest thing in the world to me. And it's something that I became very passionate about, and so now this is what I'm going to do until my wife tells me to stop it, and I retire. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened. It was really just circumstance. I wasn't trying to be a winemaker. I was never much of a winemaker. I lived in Germany, and I lived in the middle of a very wonderful European wine growing region, and I did not care at all. I was much more interested in German beer. My wife and I, when we first started dating, we'd been together for a month or two, and my roommate was getting married in Oregon, and everybody else was booking flights to go out to the wedding. And we decide that, hey, we're young and stupid, and we're waiters in a restaurant, so we have cash in our pocket. Let's drive out there. And so she was into wine and took me to wineries in Washington and Oregon and California. And I just could not be bothered by it at all. And so it's really quite a turn of events. So one day I came home to her and I said, I think I'm going to be a winemaker. It just made no sense at all. So
she was like, what?
Well, not only that, she's also a microbiologist. So she's like, why are you the one with a degree in history who's going to do this? But so yeah, I'm very, very fortunate. I have a career that I really love. It is something that I am excited to do. And I'm excited to see what I do for the next couple of decades on it.
Yeah, you do a really great job. And
thanks.
Yes, you are welcome. And you collaborate. I see. Mm-hmm. Yes, I see that and read that you had worked with Eastern Mennonite University on creating a wine label and wine for them. Can you share how that came about? Yeah.
So as I was saying, I was raised Mennonite. I went to EMU, and a lot of people are very interested in this. We opened up a winery, and they wrote an article on us in the Mennonite magazine. I think it's just called The Mennonite. And they got so many letters to the editor about this family that was making alcohol that they eventually had to just write in the magazine, please stop sending us letters. We are not just baiting this anymore. We are, they are doing that. And it doesn't matter how angry you are or how much you love it. This is, we can't take any more letters on this. But it was, my family, my brother got his MBA from EMU. I got my bachelor's from there. My dad sat on the board for many, many years. And as it turns out, there are faculty and staff there that also like wine. And so after I made a wine for JMU, then Bridgewater College said, No. That winery is in Bridgewater. They are going to start making us some wine, so I started making them some wine, and I actually make two wines for Bridgewater College, which is a Bridgewater Gold and a Bridgewater Crimson. So they have their school colors. I made some wine for Mary Baldwin a number of years ago, and there was enough of a groundswell at EMU that they approached us and said, yes, we would like for you to make some wines for us. So right now we have a Viognier and a Cabernet Franc that have a 1200 ARC, which is their address on the label. And so now there's not only the Mennonite winery, but I guess we have a couple of Mennonite wines, so to speak, although anybody can enjoy.
Yeah, that's really great. It's interesting you brought up the reaction in the Mennonite magazine, because I also read where your family-owned business and vocation is has a distinct cultural context, and I was wondering if you could explain how so.
So Mennonites, there are people who abstain completely from alcohol and they don't drink at all. And then there are Mennonites that ride in horse and buggies and live a much simpler lifestyle than many others do. My family used to own a car dealership, and now we own a winery. So we're very, very bad at this. Where it's, I guess it takes all kinds.
That's right.
But the program that I was in, it was for that when I lived in Germany. It was for Mennonite youth, I suppose, aged like 19 to 25 from North America. So there was 3 dozen of us, Canadians and Americans, and they put us in placements across those 3 countries. And some of the people who went over from the U.S. and Canada were working at wineries, like they were working at Mennonite owned and operated vineyards and wineries, and it was no big deal at all. When my family came to visit for Christmas that year, we were invited to. I didn't have a host family; I had a host congregation, and they gave me and an apartment. They gave me an apartment that I shared with a young woman from Canada, which also would have been very scandalous in the United States. We were all invited to the pastor's house for Christmas Eve, which is the big thing in Germany. Christmas Day is nice, but like everybody gets together and celebrates on Christmas Eve. And, he was very excited and very proud to pull out locally produced wines that were local to the area. And we just thought that was a really cool thing. And when the pastor was talking to my dad, he said, who better to have a beer with your son than his pastor? So, I do understand that some people don't want to drink, and that's great. I understand why you would have some reservations about it. But for us, we're very excited to take something out of the ground, out of our farm, put it in a bottle, and literally share our home with anybody who wants a glass. And so that's kind of more the angle we're coming from, as this farm product that is absolutely delicious is something that we should celebrate. So that's where I think that's more along the lines of where we would fall on that.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that.
It's not exactly the funniest part of the interview, I think, but it is kind of an interesting. It's an interesting position to be in. I think that there are actually 2 Mennonite winemakers that I know of. Maybe there are more here in the U.S., but there are 2 of us that were raised Mennonite and come from Rockingham County. The one runs Domaine Carneros, which is a huge sparkling house in southern Napa, and then I work for my parents. So there's at least 2 of us, so we're not the only ones.
You're not alone. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was reading where Thank you for sharing the European experience, because that's what I was reading. That's the Mennonite opposition toward alcohol consumption is relatively new and uniquely American.
It is, but we've also kind of been considered like the gateway winery for Mennonites. You know, people who don't want to go out and be seen in bars and other such opium dens. You know, they'll come here, and it's socially acceptable because it's the Mennonite place to hang out. And, I also don't want to give your listeners the idea that, like, you know, if I go to the to Bluestone, they're all going to be reading their Bibles and you know, discussing Anabaptist heritage, and you know, it's nothing quite like that. It's just a kind of an interesting context for us anyway.
Yeah. Of course, that could be a new and interesting and unique event, though, as well.
Yeah, but Bible study on a Wednesday night. I think that sounds about right. The gentleman that got my parents into this, he was in their Sunday school class, and he lived in a subdivision in Harrisonburg, and he had planted his whole backyard into a vineyard. You know, like a quarter or half an acre. And they were having a Sunday school picnic here at my parents' house. And he said, you know, I just wish I had more space to plant grapes, as he and my dad are just staring at this hillside. And my parents totally fell for it. And they started with this kind of, it was like I call it a hobby vineyard. It was like 100 vines, and it was a row of this and a row of something else and a row of something else. And, you know, nothing made sense. You know, you'd go out and you'd harvest, and you'd bring in like 60 pounds of one varietal, and you'd have it all squished and fermenting, like, you know, by lunchtime. So it was a great like start. And for whatever reason, you know, we thought after doing that for several years, this was back in like 2001, 2002. I guess after doing that, my parents said, yeah, I guess we know what we're doing. Let's plant 10,000 of them. And my parents had sold their car dealership, and what they should have done is retire comfortably. And instead they decided, how about farming? I think farming is a great retirement plan. They had people from Virginia Tech check out the site, look at the soil, make sure everything was good. I mean, they really did their homework on it all. And just, you know, several years later, we went from making wine in our garage, which by the Tax and Trade Bureau and by ABC, they came and they inspected it, and my parents' garage was a bonded and blessed winery. They came in, they poked their nose around. They said, yeah, the floor is painted as a stainless steel sink. There's some hoses over there. I don't see a motorcycle. This looks like a winery. And so we went from there to a couple years later. In 2010, we built the winery at the bottom of the hill. And at that point, they said, I suppose somebody should be in charge of all of this winemaking. And so it was about that time that the reins of the winemaking operation got handed from my dad more to me. And that was about 13 years ago. And I'm still trying to figure out what in the world I'm doing. So
I think we all are, aren't we? We're all trying to figure it out.
So that very first year, it was kind of known as a Napa vintage. I mean, we had grapes coming in super ripe, very clean. It was very dry at the end of the year. I haven't had a season like it since, where the fruit chemistry coming in the door would have matched California stuff. Like there was, wow. And it's not that it's better. It's just that there's a lot more sugar to it. And like, you know, wines that when fermented dry ended at 15% alcohol, which is a really large number for your alcohol on just a regular old dry wine. And so we had some luck that first year, and we ended up making a Cabernet Sauvignon that ended up in the governor's case. And you know, I still didn't know what pH was, and you know, didn't understand. I didn't know my way around a lab. I didn't know my way around a winery, but suddenly people thought, oh, they're making good wine. And so I've spent the last 13 years trying to pretend that I know what I'm doing. And so it's been a lot of fun.
But you did mention we have good soil here. I keep hearing that we have good soil for winemaking here. Is that correct?
Yeah. So even if we didn't, I'd say, yeah, of course we do. No, but we really do. So right here in the valley, we are nestled between the Allegheny Mountains and the Blue Ridge Mountains, some of the oldest mountain ranges in the world. And there was a time in history where these mountains were huge and they were jagged and rocky and all those things. And over hundreds of millions of years, they have eroded down into the valley that the Shenandoah River runs northward through. And so, all these eroded soils, so long as, you have a good mix of some limestone, or in some parts of the valley, there's slate in the soil. So long as they are well drained and it's not river bottom stuff, then it's really great. Throughout the valley, you have all these hills, and for every really good vineyard site, there's probably a lot more not great vineyard sites, and that's true wherever you go. So if you have a hill, if you have two hills, you might have two spots that are really great for growing soil. You have a spot for that water to run off down to the bottom of the hill. You have a place for cold air to drain to, and those things are really important when you're trying to plant grapes and to grow grapes and to make a quality product that will turn into wine. You can't make good wine out of mediocre fruit. So it is really the most important thing that you have going for you is your vineyard site. But if you have a hillside or a hilltop vineyard, that means you also have a bottom of that hill that would probably be a bad place, because that's where all the water wants to go and that's where all the cold air wants to go. So that's why all of our stuff is on a slope. It's perfect for draining off cold air and water and anything else you don't want an excess of. Yeah. But yeah, it's a great place to grow. We're also, since we are protected on both sides by those mountains, we are protected by weather as well. So we get a half a foot of rain less than Charlottesville does every year. So if you think about a half a foot of water, I mean, that's not an insignificant amount of water. And we also have higher elevation, which means we have cooler nights. We have drier air. It's less humid over here than it is on the other side of the mountain. And I have good friends who are making, just mind-blowing wine over there. And I'm not trying to knock the wineries over there that are doing a really great job. It's just that those are some of the key features of what it means to be a Shenandoah Valley winery. And so when you use the fruit from here, and at this point we are about 97% estate grown. So anything that's in the bottle, there's a 97% chance that it's all if you're taking that bottle home, it's the first time that fruit has ever left this property. And, those things are markers to what it means to be a valley wine or a valley farm. And that's something that we take a lot of pride in. I think that there are other really great growing regions that I would love an opportunity to try my hand at. Although if I'm making wine in another wine growing region, that means something has gone terribly, terribly wrong here. But I love the valley, and I love the wines that come out of here. Last night I got together with the Shenandoah Valley Wine Trail, and we were one of the cool things about that is everybody brings a bottle of their stuff, and you get to taste what other people are doing and what they're trying out. And it's my kind of wine. I think it's very fresh. It tastes great with food. It stands on its own just fine. I'm a very proud Virginia winemaker, and I'm even more so about the Valley, for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of your winemaking, what is your approach to making the wine and how has it evolved over the years?
I have found over the years that I'm learning more and more every single year about how to make wine. And I'm finding that the more I learn, the more difficult it becomes to do. And so that's been challenging. When we first got started, I would say just very openly, I didn't know what I was doing. Today, I still struggle, and I have good friends who are, just world-class winemakers. And when I hang out with them, I still feel like I don't know what in the world I'm doing here. I'm just trying to act like I fit in. But yeah, like when we first got started, it was a smaller operation. It was, I think we were doing 30 to 40 tons when we first opened our doors down at the new facility. We have expanded from about 10 acres. We now have 27 acres. So anytime somebody else in the area comes to us and they say, I'm thinking about starting a winery, or I'm thinking about starting a vineyard. And I always ask them, do you want me to talk you into it or out of it? Which of those two do you want? Because you probably have a pretty good idea, and I'll do either one of those things really, really, really well. And so now we are also growing grapes for two other farms here in Rockingham County. They could not be talked out of it, so we said, okay, we'll manage your farm for you, and so we get to use that fruit. So our operation has expanded a lot, and we are now bringing in 120, 130 tons a year. We are making wine for Bluestone. Obviously, we now have, instead of like 8 wines, which is what we had when we opened our doors, we now have about 25 plus, which is just a lot of wines. But we also do what's called custom crush. So I help other wineries make wine that maybe they're a startup and they don't have the capital to buy tanks and barrels and pumps and steam generators and a press or a crusher to stemmer or all that stuff. Or maybe they're already established, but they need to kind of supplement what they're able to do because they've outgrown their own facility. I'm doing that for other wineries. I do that for cidery as well. So I make a pretty fair amount of cider, even though you probably don't drink a lot of that in our tasting room at the moment. But as far as my approach is, there is an idea in wine that says that above all else, wine must be terroir driven, and I think that that's really important. And what terroir is an idea of place for a wine. So a Cabernet that is grown in Napa will taste different than a Cabernet that is grown in Bordeaux or a Cabernet that is grown in Australia, because the soil is different, the weather patterns are different. Socially, how wines are made is different, and that's usually based on some of the first two. There are vintage variations. So 2011 could not possibly have been more different than 2010. 12 months apart, and they're just one was a desert and the other was a hurricane season. So some people think that you have to make these wines that are absolutely true to place. And I think that is important. And I also subscribe to that idea. I also would counter and say the wine has to taste good. Above all else, you could say, hey, we had a really terrible site and it was a terrible vintage, but we grew this fruit and we made this really terrible wine, but it's true to the site. And it's like, well, that's fine. Nobody's going to buy it or want to drink it. And so I think that you have to make wine that tastes great and that is balanced. And unless you're doing something really weird with your wine, or you're adding stuff to it that shouldn't be added to your wines, your wines are going to taste like where they come from. My Cab Franc, I can pick it out of a lineup because of where it's grown. And I know my Chardonnay because I have the opportunity to work with the hills that I work with. But I do have to work with that Chardonnay, and I have to make sure that, there are no imperfections in that wine that get in the way of it tasting great. And I have to make sure that the oak is in balance with the acidity, which is in balance with, how things taste in the middle and the finish, and everything has to work together, in some sort of harmonious way. We can't just, we can't make anything that's not delicious and then say, the most important thing is that it's something else. But yeah, my main thing is striving to make wines that taste good. And I know that sounds like a pretty duh thing. But yeah, I want to make wines with balance, above all else, I guess.
Yeah. Let's speak.
Yeah.
That's
good.
It is good. Well, that is really awesome to share all of that insight. I mean, I'm not a winemaker, so it's interesting to me. And I would love if you could walk through with us the process of making one of your flagship wines, from picking the grapes to bottling the finished product.
I feel like answering that last question was like pulling the starter on a lawnmower and then forgetting that you're mowing the lawn. You're like, oh, what was I doing again? Sorry. So you're asking how do I make wine is the question?
Yeah.
I think? Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
From beginning to end, from picking the grapes to bottling the finished product.
Yeah. So at this point, pretty much everything is, as I was saying, is estate grown. We get a little bit of Viognier from just the other side of Wintergreen with a grower. It's Silver Creek Orchards and Vineyards, which we've been working with them this will be our 14th vintage working with them. But other than that, everything is grown right here, which is a really cool thing. When you have estate grown stuff, you're able to say, I 100%, nobody else did this, but my team and we pulled this bottle out of the ground. We took it from dirt all the way to the cork, and there's something really special about that. So we have our vineyards, and every year we're able to pull in a harvest, starting at the end of October or at the end of August into the beginning of October. Usually, it's a pretty wild 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the year. Running several 100-hour weeks together is not uncommon. And so we hand pick everything. Nothing is machine harvested here. So there are even parts of our hill that we can't even put a tractor on to harvest by hand and then dump into the bins that are being carried by tractors. We actually have to pick into these 25-pound boxes and then carry it off the hill because it is so steep there. We bring the clusters of fruit to the winery in these bigger bins. They usually hold about 700 or 800 pounds of fruit a piece. And from there, they go to the back room, which is a cold room. For the same reason that you don't go to the grocery store, for the same reason that if you go to the grocery store, the produce aisle is cold. You want to keep your produce nice and cold. You don't want the microbes that live on your food to make it rot prematurely. We want to have the freshest fruit possible. So the next day we bring that fruit out, and depending on what kind of wine we're making and what kind of grapes we're working with, will greatly alter what direction you go with. If you're working with white wine, it usually goes for us directly to the press. And what we do there is it squeezes all the juice out of the rest of the cluster. And then you are working with the cleanest juice possible. If you crush and stem the fruit ahead of time, then your juice is just going to kind of soak on the skins, and the skins have some nice flavors and textures to them, but they can also impart bitterness. So we want to separate all that stuff out as quickly as possible. So we usually just do what's called a whole cluster press and squeeze that juice out right away. With our reds, we will destem them and remove the stem, and then we take the berries and we dump them into the fermenter. And from there, we've got, the skin, the seed, the pulp, the juice, everything stays together, and it'll all stay together and ferment for anywhere from 1 to 5 weeks, depending on, again, what kind of grape we're working with and what kind of style of wine we want to do. And so during that month of September, we are just fermenting and monitoring and crushing stuff and staying late and cleaning up after ourselves. It gets to be a real mess. I mean, harvest season alone is enough for me to live on the property, so that I can, during those big long weeks, I can, go home at dinner time and have supper with the family, and then put my son to bed, and then at 8 or 9 o'clock, go back down to the winery and finish up at midnight and get up at 6 and then go do it all again.
Wow.
Yeah, it's, I've got a good team. I got a lot of people who are interested in not only learning about making wine, but are interested in taking pride in their work. And, when you think about what goes into making really great wine, it is all about details. It is about not cutting corners. It is about making sure that you are thorough in your work and you are doing everything as precisely as possible. And even when you are exhausted and even when you want to go home, you put in the effort to make things right, because you know that your efforts tonight and this afternoon or in the morning, there are people out there who are going to enjoy this wine 15 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And so that bottle of wine is kind of the legacy of your work. And, a lot of, the people who know me personally, they know me as Kurt and Jackie's son, and they know me as Charlie's dad or as Erica's husband. But a lot of people that I've never met before know me as Lee Hartman, the winemaker. And so to them, my reputation is 100% in that bottle. Mm. So if I am making wine that isn't very good, then they think that I'm not very good. And I don't want that at all. And my team doesn't want that.
No one wants that. I don't even.
Nobody wants that.
I don't even want it.
Yeah. So yeah. There's anyway. So yeah, we do stay late and we put in all the work. Once the wine is finished and dry, and dry meaning all the sugar has been fermented out and the CO2 has all left the building. Then we can start putting things away. We can start putting things in oak barrels, and then it goes down for a long sleep. If you're working with heavy reds, they'll probably be in barrels for 2 years, and you'll put it in there and you won't pull it out for, many seasons later. And so you want to make sure that you do it right when you put it in. If you put in your wines and everything is great, it'll come out great. If it's a little bit unraveled, it can be completely unwound when you pull it out. So, do it right the first time. You measure twice, cut once, sort of thing.
Do you not find out if it turned out well until it comes out of the barrel? So you could, if I'm hearing you right, can you theoretically put it in the barrel and then 2 years later find out if it turned out well or not?
No, I'm sorry if I misrepresented that. No, like when you, as I was saying earlier, you can't make great wine out of mediocre fruit. So right. So as good as your fruit is, that is the ceiling for how good your wine can be. So your job as a winemaker, and this gets back to my ramblings on my how do I make wine and what is my my philosophy, approach and my philosophy to it all, is that you have to start with something really great and don't screw it up. And that's it. Yeah. And so if you're able to stay on top of your wine and make sure that everything is good and you are keeping it good, meaning that, your SO2 levels don't get out of whack, and your, during fermentation, you have the right balance of acidity and alcohol or potential alcohol, but sugar now. You want to make sure that you have enough time in contact with the skins and the seeds. If the skins and the seeds are good when they come in the door, and if, there is no recipe that you can follow. It is much more of being like a chef, in that you have to look at the ingredients that you have and then make the best dish you possibly can. And then you can look at what you have and look at where you want to be. And then you'll kind of develop your own roadmap and make sure that you keep the wheels on the road, so to speak, the whole way there. And if you do that, then your wine should be good on the other side. But it's not like we seal up the barrels and then that's it. I have to go through every month and top off our barrels, because the alcohol and the water in the wine evaporates through the pores of the wood. And so every month, we have over 200 barrels that need a liter of wine added back to them. So a barrel is about 225 liters. And so that means that, every month we lose about a barrel of wine due to evaporation. So we have to make sure that we're staying on top of that. Otherwise your wine gets kind of funky and oxidized. Kind of like if you have a half a bottle of wine and that you just put the cork back in and you leave it on the counter for 4 days and you come back to it, it tastes less good than it used to. The same thing, only you're working with 300 bottles in a barrel, and you don't want to ruin 300 bottles because you neglected it. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think I got it. So the way you can tell how the wine is going to come out of the barrel is testing the fruit and its acidity and the sugar and all of those different things before it goes in the barrel.
Yeah. It's also a lot of tasting, Who
has to do that? Who gets to do that?
I'm probably one of the few people that you've met that has spit more wine than I've swallowed. Mostly because I'd like to make it to lunch every day. So yeah, that's definitely a hazard of the job. You if you're not spitting your wine, you will run into a problem very fast.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, but you still have to taste it all. You have to look at your chemistry, you have to look at your numbers, and you have to taste it. You have to use both of those avenues to really get a good understanding of what your wine is.
That's great. Well, you've certainly done a lot of work, and I appreciate you sharing that. You've won 3 gold medals, or Bluestone has won 3 gold medals in the 2022 Virginia Governor's Cup, and a trove of awards and 2 prestigious national competitions in 2021, including 2 Best in Class awards and 2 double gold medals. Geez, that's a lot of great awards. What goes into preparing for those competitions as a winemaker?
The world of competitions, it's such a funny thing to me, because this is something it's a lot of hard work, and it's very beautiful, and we really love what we create, and we love sharing what we've made, and we love when other growers share what they make, and I'm very excited about everybody's efforts. And then to take this artwork and this science and this farming work that you do, and then to try to quantify it and pit everybody up against each other. It's such a funny aspect of the job. But when we submit to these competitions, really we fill out a bunch of forms, and then we send them cases and cases of wine, and then you really hope for the best. We don't send them everything. We send our wines to competitions that we think are serious, ones that are run by people who really know how to run a competition, people who really know their wine. we can't just, submit our wine to every county fair across the country that has a wine competition attached to it. But we do always enter the Governor's Cup, and here in Virginia, the Shenandoah Cup, which is like the Governor's Cup, but it's just for the Shenandoah Valley. And then we also enter a couple of national competitions, namely the San Francisco Chronicle and the San Francisco International Wine Competitions. And it's really cool when you do that, because not only are you getting feedback about your specific wines, but you're also seeing how you're doing. It kind of gives you a benchmark for what you're doing well, and maybe what you should do some more homework on. And so that sort of feedback from people who really know their wine is a really invaluable part of what we do. It's not like the Olympics where you train for it, and then like there's like that moment that you jump on a plane, and then I would love a competition where I could go and gather with a bunch of other winemakers and do wine stuff for 2.5 weeks in a foreign country. I think that sounds awesome. But no, it's always good to get your feedback from people who know wine, and also who don't, when you enter into a judging like that, they are going to get a wine glass with a stem that has a sticker on it, and it says this is wine number 532, or this is 181, or whatever it is. And then they fill out a form and they say wine number 181 has a garnet color with a clear rim, and it has aromas of lilacs and raspberries and tarragon or whatever, and they'll do all that, and then they'll give it a score at the end. But what I really like about it, more than the frou-frou-ness of the notes of what some anonymous judge thinks that my wine smells like an herb rack in the kitchen, or a spice rack in the kitchen. Like, they don't know who made the wine that is sitting in front of them. It's a blind taste. So they are able to give you an honest score. Whereas when you send into certain publications, they will every day have cases of wine being shipped to them, and they'll have lots of different labels that they're familiar with or not familiar with. And, sometimes they might even like just pull out your bottle from the box and say, I don't like this label. I'm not even going to taste it. I have a whole wall of wines to taste. And then the wines that they gave a 93 to last year, they'll probably give a 92 to a 94 again this year. And then other ones that got an 88 last year, they'll probably give them a score in the 80s again. And, the needle might move one way or the other, but it's kind of predetermined in their mind where it might be. Whereas for these competitions, it's a much more honest opinion of the wine, without all the stuff that goes around it, so to speak, without the packaging.
Yeah. How do you select which wines you're going to submit to this competition? Do you select it? Do other people, part of Bluestone, have input on what is submitted? How do you all go about that process?
So I generally pick a lot of them. Sometimes things are done a bit too much by committee in a family business.
And cheats in the kitchen.
Yeah. But I'm always happy to hear other people's opinions about what we should submit, what we shouldn't submit. Sometimes you do kind of consider what our judge is going to like, one criticism that I've heard over and over again in Virginia when we're trying to put together the best competition we can in the Governor's Cup is that there are just certain flights that do really, really well. Namely big, heavy reds and dessert wines and sparkling wines, because, those are things that make a real impression on your palate. Whereas maybe a Chardonnay, might get lost in a bunch of other medium weighted white wines. So, what am I going to submit? Well, I might submit my big heavy reds and my dessert wines and my sparkling wines. But for the Governor's Cup, we submit pretty much everything that is that qualifies, which is most of our wines. We might not submit some of our sweet wines, but it is important. Even if I don't think a wine is a gold medal winner, I still want to get the feedback from wine professionals who can tell me, I found this fault in your wine, or I really loved the nose on this, or I thought this wine was very well balanced, or, I think that sort of criticism is something that can make me a better winemaker. And so it's good to take them, not only just as an evaluation that we can put up on Facebook, but also as somebody who can, in a way, edit my winemaking process down the road. If everybody thinks that my red blend is terrible, well, then I better back up and say, what am I doing wrong, and fix that. I don't think that people think that my red blends are terrible, but
I don't think so either.
our Houndstooth red blend won the Shenandoah Cup in 2021. So that's one we're really proud of, and that's one that I'll probably always submit to competitions, because it's a big heavy red and it's all estate grown and something that we're very proud of.
Well, congrats on that, Lee. And speaking of award-winning craft goods in the Commonwealth, our sponsor, Pre-Popsterous Gourmet Popcorn, is too. They won the Made in Virginia Award from Virginia Living Magazine. And they're pretty much neighbors to you there in Bridgewater, Lee, right?
They are. They're about 3 miles away.
Just 3 miles.
Yep, right in the town.
Well, does that mean that Laughers could bring popcorn to your vineyard if they wanted to?
I would say that Laughers should bring popcorn to the vineyard if they wanted to. Yeah, they absolutely should. Yep.
Because do you guys have food on site or no?
We have some food on site, but my parents met working in a restaurant. My wife and I met working in a restaurant. We love restaurants. We do not want to be a restaurant. So we do have food, and I would encourage you to pick some up, but we also encourage people to bring whatever food makes them happiest.
Speaking of what makes me happy is this cinnamon flavor popcorn I'm chewing on right now. What are you chewing on? What you munching on over there, Lee?
Cheddar. Delicious.
It is delicious. That's one of my favorite flavors they have. And Laughers, let me tell you something. Be sure to get your Pre-Popsterous today so you can munch on it when you join me on next week's episode. Be sure to use discount promo code LAUGH15 and buy some today at prepopsterous.com. That's prepopsterous.com. I love this popcorn, Lee.
It's so good. And that was a really good job of some fast spelling. I think I would have gotten pretty tied up on it.
I've had to work on it. Sometimes I say preposterous when I'm supposed to say prepopsterous, but I think I got it today. What do you think?
Bit of a tongue twister. Yeah, no, no second take needed.
Hey, let's get back into these wines. I want to hear more about the 24 wines you have available. Talk to us about your wine selection.
So, sorry, I'm still chewing on the cheddar preposterous. It's really good.
It is really good.
So I would say that we make, in some regards, entirely too many wines. Like it is so much work trying to not just make wine, but to make a little bit of everything. And I think that we've done a really good job of trying to keep quality up, even when you're trying to, make 2 new wines per month on average. Yeah. And so it's fun. It's fun for me, and it's important for me for 2 reasons. One is that we want to be we want to be taken seriously for our wine. It's something that has become my life's work, and my team here. My parents, live in the middle of this stuff as well. My brother is here every day, our whole team. So we want to make sure that we are able to make the best quality product possible. But at the same time, we also want everybody to be comfortable. So we have wines here that I think are very serious, very academic wines, things that, that to really appreciate, maybe you need to, learn a bit more of how it's made and what goes into it. And then we also have just very easy, fun, everyday wines that anybody could really get into, even if it's your first time drinking wine. So I think we're the only winery in the States that makes Moscato. And I've been saying that for years, and nobody has told me somebody else who is making it. So I'm going to keep saying it. So we do that. We have a sweet red blend called Crooked and Weedy. It is named after the Chesapeake and Western Railroad that used to run through our property from 1902 to 1933.
That's cool.
Yeah, and we have a sweet white wine called Beau, which was named after my dad's golden retriever. And when my dad said he wanted to name that wine Beau, I said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And then it became our most popular wine that we have. So it turns out, I guess sometimes Dad's right about stuff.
Exactly. I was getting ready to say, Dad, you were right.
Yeah, sure was. So anyway, so we have those things, but we also, we won 3 gold medals in the Governor's Cup this year. And, I have wines that I make not just for me, but wines that I really love, and I am very invested in. I love our Chardonnay. It grows in my front yard. I love our Cabernet Franc. It grows right next to the Chardonnay. There is a new series that we started late in the pandemic called the Vineyard Site series, which are wines that are basically science experiments for me as a winemaker, but I wouldn't release them unless they were really, really delicious. So they're really great wines, but they all have a really nerdy twist to them. Like, I have a white wine. It's called the Odd Bird, and it's made out of Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Petit Verdot. So 3 red grapes that we made into a white wine. We have a Chardonnay that's the fermentation for that wine started outside in the vineyard. So it is fermented with yeast that is native to the field that it grew with. We have another wine. It's a rosé that's it's a sparkling wine that, instead of making it in a traditional champagne style, basically we took the fermentation when it was almost done, and then we put it in a bottle with a crown cap on it, and it traps all the CO2 in there, and then it finishes fermenting in that bottle. So it's called a petulant natural, or a pet nat. And so these wines are all really fun and nerdy, but even if you're not into it as much as I am, even if you don't have wine maps in your kitchen, that's okay. They still taste really great.
That's what I'm about at the end of the day, is wine tasting really great.
That's it. So that's why we have 24 wines. So we want to make sure that all of our customers are happy, regardless of how into wine they are. And also, as somebody who is such a dork about wine, like, I want to make all the things. I can't make all the things because I can't make 36 wines or 50 wines. Like, there has to be a limit to what I'm doing. So people will ask, are you ever going to make an Albarino? Are you ever going to make a Sauvignon Blanc? Are you ever going to make whatever? And it's like, well, I'm doing everything I can because I'm enjoying making these blends and making these different wines. And so some of it is also just me selfishly wanting to try more and more stuff. So it works for me, and it works for our customers.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just
variety, spice of life and all that.
Exactly. I was going to just say that. I'm just going to go there and enjoy the variety for my spice in life. And I'm going to leave all the nerdy details to you.
Yeah. And that's fine. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. You have a new and unique tasting experience with your wine flights. Can you tell us more about that and the wine growlers too? I saw you have those. That's exciting.
Yeah. So we started doing flights again. We used to have bar service before the where you could do a tasting before the pandemic, and then during the pandemic, we started making these little mini, basically like airplane bottles of wine. So you could come up to the counter and say, these are the 4 wines I'd like to try, and we would gather those little bottles up and give them to you, and then you could enjoy them at your table and not share the atmosphere with the person on the other side of the bar. And so we still do that because people seem to really like it. And sometimes, they make great stocking stuffers or whatever. And but now we started doing different flights, and the flights, different weekends have different themes to them. And so that Vineyard Site series that I was telling you about, that was a theme the other weekend. The weekend before that was rosés. So we had our sparkling rosé, we had that Pet Nat rosé I was telling you about, and then we also have bottles of a dry rosé, and then we also have rosé in a can, which is the best kind of rosé because my team and I we like hiking, we like kayaking, we like going to music festivals, and a can just makes way more sense on those than a bottle does.
I see it.
So yeah. So that's how that ended up in the flight, and the wine is delicious. It tastes great. But yeah, so that's fun. It's a good way to explore some wine, and sometimes in the world of wine, it's nice to have other people pick things out for you, so that you get to try stuff that maybe you wouldn't have tried otherwise. But Donna, our tasting room manager, she puts those flights together, and she always has some sort of different theme. And we've been doing that on weekends, which has been a lot of fun. For the growlers, we've been kegging wine for a number of years. And so we have a 2 kegerator downstairs in the tasting room. And that was kind of my way of, I would always go out to these restaurants with my wife, and there's, all the local breweries have some one-off batch of beer that you're like, oh, well, I don't really want a peanut butter and Skittles stout right now with my Korean noodles, but if I don't try it now, then I'm not going to get to try it. So I better try that. And so, this was our way, not to put peanut butter and Skittles into our wine, but as a way of putting together kind of one-off blends and not having to make a huge bottling of it, but I can just make 1 keg. And it also saves on packaging. So people come in, they buy the growler, and then they can reuse that growler. My wife and I also discovered a long time ago that if we ever wanted to have a wine collection, you need to have a what we would call a sacrificial bottle, because what you need to do is you need to buy more wine than you consume, which is just math. So if you want to hold on to wine, nobody ever goes out to a winery or to a wine tasting and tastes a wine and then goes home and doesn't have wine with dinner. Right. Mm-hmm. So what you need is a sacrificial bottle. So you go to a wine shop and you taste all these wines and you get some really good stuff. And then you need something that you're going to drink tonight. Mm-hmm. And so for us, that was kind of the idea behind the growler. You're going to buy this $25 or $30 bottle of wine, and maybe you don't want to drink it tonight. Maybe you want to drink it at graduation, or you want to drink it at the holidays and you want to share it with people or whatever. Or maybe you want to see what it turns into in 5 years. So you need that wine for tonight. And that's just what a growler is. It's perfect. It's not meant to be aged. It's meant to be had now. And so that's what we've been doing. So if you come to the vineyard and you get a growler, you can get one of those things filled up
That's really, yeah, I'm going to have to try that out. I haven't experienced this yet, which is one of the many reasons why I was excited about this. I was like, oh, I get to find out about the growlers.
I don't know why everybody doesn't do it. It saves you on glass. You don't have to order a bunch of labels and corks and caps and all that stuff. And it's kegs are just kind of easier to deal with, and you get to reuse them. So
yeah, you are nice. You have a beautiful vineyard, and you are open daily, which is really exciting. What are your hours, and are you dog friendly?
So dog friendly, we are very, very dog friendly. We are a family farm, so we allow kids, both 2- and 4-legged children are welcome here. And they have to be on a leash, the 4-legged ones, not the 2-legged ones. Although, anyway, it doesn't matter. Very dog friendly. My brother brings his dogs every day. My dogs live here. Our vineyard manager that we'd had for the last several years, she brought her dogs every day. We're a very, very dog friendly place. So yes, to that, we are open every day from 11 to 6, except for Sunday, we are open from 1 to 6. I think we're open every day, but like 3 days a year. And I think that's like Christmas and New Year's and maybe Thanksgiving. Maybe I don't even know. But you should follow us on Facebook, and we will certainly let you know if we're not going to be open. But we've also lately we've been open up later on weekends, particularly on Fridays to we have like trivia nights, or we have we've had karaoke a couple of times, which has been fun. We had a thing called music bingo, where like they'd play you a snippet of a song, and then you have a bingo card, and you had to like fill out the songs that you recognized. So anyway, yeah. But if you just want to come and watch the sun go down, you're also welcome to do that without playing bingo. Yeah. So those are our hours.
Yeah. Speaking of the weekends, you have the Toast the Weekend concert series starts this Friday. I would love if you would share with the Lappers who may not have experienced that yet. What is the Toast the Weekend concert series?
It's a real good time. So
it is actually, Lappers.
we built a stage on the far end of the property. When we first started doing this over a decade ago, it was in my tank room. And so we would have a band play in my tank room, and we'd have like a dozen or 24 people come, and we'd have a food truck there, and we'd, do the whole thing. And eventually it outgrew the tank room. And so then it was behind the winery, and then it kind of outgrew that space. So now we built a stage on the far end of the property, and we have, several hundred people twice a month will come out on the 2nd and 4th Friday of every month from May through September. So it's 10 shows a year. And it's mostly local bands, mostly covers stuff. Everybody wants to hear all their favorite songs. And so that's the best way to do it. Tomorrow night, our season opens with Big City Band, and then we've got Mike Davis is making a triumphant return to the stage the Friday of Memorial Day, and then we've got just a really great lineup. I'm not going to name through everybody because I'm definitely going to forget somebody, but yeah, a really, really great lineup. I'm excited about the whole season. It's $10 at the gates, which gets you a glass of wine. Or a glass anyway. If you bring your glass back next time, then you get wine put in that glass for free. So bring your glass back. And we have food trucks, and it's a pretty family friendly deal. Like my kid is there; he's 7. His friends are always there. They're running around, having a grand old time. It's a great place to take a date. For you can bring your own picnic, or you can get food at the food truck. You can do a little bit of both. And we have all of our wines down there available for purchase at the wine tent. So, all in, it's probably one of the less expensive Friday night affairs you can have.
I agree. Can also pick up that pre-popsterous popcorn and bring.
Absolutely, yeah. It would not be the first time that we've seen preposterous at Toast Weekend. You can also, if you don't feel like bringing in your lawn chairs or your camp chairs, you can call the tasting room and reserve one of our picnic tables.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had people bring in like complete birthday parties, bring in like birthday cakes and like the whole 9 yards, and they'll get like a couple of tables, and they've got like their own party on the lawn. But it's always fun. It's a great place to see people. You can't walk through the crowd there without running into a dozen people that you know.
Yeah, that's all. It is a really good time. I've been out there before. What has prompted you all to do the concert series in the first place? This is your what year of doing the concert series? How long has that been happening now?
So we opened our doors in 2011, and I think that we started doing Toast Weekends that first year. It might have been 2012, but we've been doing it for a while. And I am a live music junkie. I love watching musicians do what they do, and it's just such a fun atmosphere. My family, we went to an industry conference a number of years ago, and in one of the marketing meetings, they had talked about, how many of you here are locally owned family farms that make award-winning wines, and everybody raised their hand. It's like, okay, that's great. So what else have you got to make sure that people come out to your farm? And so we decided we were going to start having concerts, and they've been really popular. We invite out all the neighbors to make sure that our neighbors are happy, and we don't cause too much of a problem for them. But it's some of them will just sit on their back deck and listen to the music from their comfort of their own home. But yeah, it's just because your business is good and people like it sometimes is not enough. And so you have to make sure that people have reason to come out and see you. And so that's why we have any sort of events, whether it be Toast Weekend. That's why we have wine dinners. That's why we have a rotating cast of flights that we offer. You always have to give people a reason to come see you. We've all had that restaurant that we really, really like that went out of business. And it's like, oh, I really like them. I haven't been there in 3 years. Oh yeah. I forgot. So we just want to give people a reason to come out and see us and to come and visit. And so that's why we do all of those different promotional things.
Yeah, I like all the things that you're doing there. You have this wine amongst friends, where I notice people that are knowledgeable about the wine industry kind of come to this and share their knowledge. It sounds like, just from reading from your website. How often do those happen? And is that open to anybody that wants to come listen to these wine experts?
Yeah, so there are very few things that we do here that aren't open to the public. Now, that doesn't mean you can just wander into somebody's wedding, but aside from all these events that we put on are meant for everybody. And so Wine Amongst Friends is my chance to, as a winemaker, I suffer the winemaker's curse. We all know each other and we know each other's wines and stuff, but we never get to go visit and see each other. And so this is my way of inviting my winemaking friends to Bluestone, and then they get to pour a handful of their wines for all of our guests here. And it's kind of like it's the equivalent of like a tap room takeover, but for us it's a tasting room takeover. So the first Friday of every month, up through harvest season, because no winemaker wants to leave their winery during harvest season. So from now until August, the second and fourth Friday are Toast Weekends, and the first Friday of every month is a Wine Amongst Friends. And it's a great opportunity to come and not only try wines that aren't Bluestone, but to get to know other winemakers and other varietals that maybe we don't grow here. We have people who bring in Gruner Veltliner and Albarino or Tannat. Like these are all varietals that I don't make, that I love, but maybe they make them at somebody else's site, and you get to taste how they make their wine and where it's grown and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, just once a month, it's just kind of a party where somebody else is the wine maker for the day.
I'm gonna have to check one of those out for sure. And then you have wine memberships that you call the Press Club. What is the cost? Yeah, what is the cost and the benefits of becoming part of the Press Club?
So the cost is it's free.
Oh, that's my favorite price.
It's the best number. So yeah, the wine club is it is free to join. It is quarterly. We have 3 different clubs. There's a sweet selection, there's reds only, and then there's the winemaker's choice, where I pick 3 wines, and they're generally always dry wines, but they are a mix of both red and white. And so you agree to buy those wines, and then the pickup parties are in March, June, September, and December. And we have a big party in this room. It's, hundreds of people, and I'm pouring wine, and there's food, and people hang out. You get discounts on all bottles that you purchase here. You get some free tickets to go to Toast the Weekend throughout the year. You get discounts on wine dinners and things like that. And all those discounts and stuff are really great and everything. But really the coolest part about being in the club is that our club is just comprised of 700 very cool people. And we really love when everybody gets together, and you'll probably end up chatting with people, and you say, "Oh, I've seen you at the last several of these," and you're waiting in line to get your wine. And it's just a really great community of people who are interested in wine. Some have been drinking wine for 30 years. Some people are just getting started, but it's just a cool community of people.
I love that. What are the wine pairing dinners? We have several of them that we always do. We always do a Valentine's one, and we always do a holiday one. And then we try to space a few out throughout the year. We are having a Mother's Day brunch on Sunday. I think this will probably come out after Mother's Day, but we also hope to have one late summer, maybe early fall, kind of a harvest dinner sort of thing. Just late enough in the summer where we can see the grapes getting ready to come in the door, and we can kind of have a celebration for that as I'm getting ready with my team to start bringing the fruit in, and everybody's getting ready to send their kids to school, and everybody's happy that it's not 104 degrees as the sun is going down. I think we'll probably have one of those this year as well. So yeah, we always looking for a good excuse to gather and have some food and wine. So what comes with it? You get a couple of glasses of wine, and a caterer comes in with the food, the dinner. What?
Yeah, we've used a bunch of different caterers, different restaurants that we've built relationships with over the years. The one that we use the most is Parkhurst Dining out of Bridgewater College, actually. So they are used to, feeding 1,000 college students stuff every day. But when they do the dinners here, they get to really make it perfect and nice, and make really awesome high-end dining, which is really cool. They actually will come up with a menu, and they'll bring it in to us. They'll prepare the meal, and they'll feed my team here, and we'll sit down and we'll have a 4-course meal. And in the middle of the table, we have dozens of bottles of wine, because they could send us, the description of the food, and we could try to pick something out, but maybe it doesn't quite match up as well as you'd like. And so we actually get to try the food and find the wine that is best suited to it, and also give the chef feedback. And so that way, when our guests come in and they sit down at their table and they are served a 4-course meal, that pairing goes perfectly with our wine. So that way they're making the menu around the wine as opposed to the other way around, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But we love Parkhurst. They are awesome. We've been working with them for years, hope to for many more years.
Yeah, that sounds really great. There's so much going on over there at Bluestone. You're also a wedding and event venue, and I wanted to ask you if there's a lapper or someone that the lapper knows that is looking for a venue and considering Bluestone, what would they need to know? Who would they need to get in contact with?
So our event coordinator, her name is Deanne Blanton, and she is definitely the person you'd want to reach out to. It's DEANNE at bluestonevineyard.com. Or you can just call us here at the Vineyard. It's 540-828-0099. And she would love to pour you a glass of wine and take you on a tour around here. My wife and I got married here before we had this building. We got married in a big tent, and it's a really great space. It's kind of a blank canvas. You can really make it into whatever sort of a party you want it to be, and it's all set with the Allegheny Mountains as the backdrop, and a great kitchen, great space. There's a beautiful spot on the back ridge to get married, and lots of good wine. So
lots of good wine. What is in store for Bluestone Vineyard in the future? What is next?
Man, if I knew the answer to that, there's lots of things. We continue to love working with the industry to try to make the industry bigger and better. Right now, here I am very excited about my work with Custom Crush as well as Custom Vineyard Management, where I get to help other people plant vineyards or start a winery, or to help them make wine or help them know how to make their own wine. So that's something that I focus a lot of my time on here. We also, things are always changing. We just, a long-time member of our team just went from part-time. She is one of our longest-serving employees. She is now our tasting room manager, and she is really awesome in setting the world on fire. Her name's Donna. She knows everybody in Rockingham County, and has been doing a great job of, as I was saying earlier, giving people reasons to come out and see us in the tasting room. We continue to want to do concerts and wine dinners. The one thing that I'm working on currently is opening up a wine bar in downtown Harrisonburg.
Oh, very
cool. Which will be opening up later this summer. Hopefully, anyway. It is still under construction. It will be across from Magpie Diner.
Oh, wow!
As part of that big renovation there. So I am very excited to have Bluestone Vineyard have a presence downtown Harrisonburg, and then we'll also have a rotating cast of other wines that I'll be pouring alongside of it. Because as I said earlier, Bluestone doesn't make everything, but it's fun to not only offer the wines that we're very proud of here, but to give people an opportunity to explore a little bit of what all is out there.
I love it.
So,
that's very exciting. Well, as we wrap up here, how best can people follow Bluestone Vineyard on social media or otherwise to connect and get more information?
Oh man, our marketing director is going to scream at me later because I don't know all the handles and the. I know so Bluestone Vineyard is on Facebook. We're also on Instagram. I bet we're on Twitter. I don't know. You can go to our website. I know it's all on there. It's bluestonevineyard.com. It's blue like the color, stone like a rock, vine yard, no S at the end. You can also follow me if you're interested in more of the farming and the winemaking aspect, and want to get some more behind the scenes stuff. You can follow my professional page, which is just Lee Hartman, winemaker. And so if you want to see when I spill wine, or if I'm swearing at a tractor, there might be pictures of that posted on Facebook. And then be looking for later this summer. I should probably open a page before we open the doors. But yeah, Rootstock Wine Bar in Harrisonburg will be up and running, and you can follow that as soon as I get around to putting that one up.
I love it. What was the name? Rootstone?
Rootstock.
Rootstock.
So rootstock is the stuff at the bottom of the vine that goes out into the ground and acts as a conduit for everything that the plant needs. Goes through the rootstock to the Merlot or the Chardonnay or whatever is up above.
Okay, and is it one word or two?
Rootstock is one word.
Okay.
Yep. ROOTSTOCK. Mm-hmm.
So Rootstock Wine Bar.
That's it. Rootstock Wine Bar in Harrisonburg. That's
amazing. Well, I'm looking forward to checking that out and enjoying your wine there too.
Me too.
I like to visit down there, and Magpie's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're great. Kirsten is actually kind of spearheading a lot of the project across the street, and so I've been working really closely with her on getting everything together. And I drove by the other day, and the concrete floor was being poured, and so I'm excited here in the next few months to take a bunch of Bluestone wine downtown, put it on the shelves, and start pouring glasses.
Yes, Laughers. That is going to be a fabulous place. We had Kirsten on as a guest for this podcast to share with us her story and all about Magpie. And that is one dynamic woman, and she is fabulous and does fabulous work. So the community is in store for some really great things, and you're just adding to it, Lee. So thank you so much. That's great.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. It's good to be here.
Yes, Laughers will also be able to put all that information for you in the show notes as well. So we'll even look up the social media handles for Lee. We'll stick those in there for you too, along with the website. Plus, we'll also have for you that discount code, promo code LAUGH15 to buy delicious gourmet popcorn at prepopsterous.com. That's PREPOPSTEROUS.com. In the show notes for you also. And once more, thanks again, Lee. This has been wonderful and fun chatting about all things winemaking and Bluestone Vineyards today. I've learned so much. I've enjoyed your wine in the past. I'm going to enjoy your wine in the future, and I can't wait for my next visit there and to the new place downtown. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. This is awesome.
You bet. Laughers, be sure to connect with them. Get to their website at bluestonevineyard.com, or better yet, visit their tasting room in person and enjoy the Toast of the Weekend concert series, where you can take in all the breathtaking views of the Shenandoah Valley right there in Bridgewater, Virginia. We'll be sure to put their physical location for you in the show notes as well. And lastly, and most importantly, thanks for tuning in, Laughers. Out of all the podcasts out there, you picked us, and we think that's pretty darn special, just like you. Until next time, keep smiling. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. We'll be dropping a new podcast every Wednesday, so check back for another uplifting episode. Come to an X2 Comedy show, or let us bring one to you. To find out more, head to x2comedy.com. Be sure to share this podcast with a friend, and until next time, cheers.